The Four Horsemen HD, hour 1 of 2. We haven't even finished the first video. This is Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, and Richard Dawkins, all four at a round table, taking a deep dive, dissecting some of the stuff that we've been looking at for a long time. Sincerely appreciate everyone who's been here for the ride, watching these, enjoying these, because these are four minds that I think really need to be heeded. You need to listen to what they're saying. They've got some really, really wise things to point out. And I've been learning just in the past few weeks since reacting to these people. I used to not like them. I was a Christian who'd watched some of them, debate the Christian apologists that were my favorite when I was a Christian, and I just couldn't stand them. And now that I'm an ex-Christian listening to them, it's like, wow, music to my ears, like they make a lot of sense. And it's just wild how you can go from one side to the other and think completely different. Just how that switch can change is unbelievable. So we're going to pick up where we left off in that first hour discussion of the roundtable. Be sure to like the video, join the community, subscribe, hit the bell. Most of you watching haven't done so, so please take the time to do so. I really, really appreciate you being here. Let's see what they have in store for us.
Well, it seems to me it's the preachers themselves, it's the priests, it's the bishops. And we really should hold their feet to the fire. For instance, just take the issue of creationism. If somebody in a fundamentalist church thinks that creationism makes sense because their pastor told them, well, I can understand that and excuse that. We all get a lot of what we take to be true from people that we respect and whom we view as authorities. We don't check everything out. But where did the pastor get this idea? And I don't care where he or she is responsible, because their job is to know what they're talking about in a way that the congregation isn't.
We have to be a little bit careful not to sound condescending when we say that, and in a way it's reflecting the condescension of the preacher.
Yes, because I'll take things that you and Richard say on the human and natural sciences, not without wanting to check, but I'm often unable to, but knowing that you are the sort of gentleman who would have checked. If you say, the bishop told me it, so I believe it, you make a fool of yourself, it seems to me, and one is entitled to...
Dude, okay, I love this. Yeah, you would go to Daniel Dennett and you'd go to Richard Dawkins for natural sciences, the brain for Dennett. And I think he's a neurological expert. He really knows brain quite well. Biology, right, and evolution with Richard Dawkins. You would go to these guys. They're experts. But if you say, my bishop told me, or the pastor, or the Christian apologist told me, you really, really do need to check that at the door, ladies and gentlemen.
Say so. Just as one is entitled when dealing with an ordinary racist to say that his opinions are revolting. He may know no better, but that's not going to save him from my condemnation. And nor should it. And I think exactly as condescending not to confront people, as it were, one by one or en masse. So public opinion is often wrong. Mob opinion is almost always wrong.
Let's link
religious opinion is wrong. Religious opinion is wrong by definition. We can't avoid this. And I wanted to intrude the name H.L. Mencken at this point. Mm-hmm. Now a very unjustly celebrated American writer. Not particularly to my taste, much too much of a Nietzschean, and what really was once meant by social Darwinists at one stage. But why did he win the tremendous respect of so many people in this country in the 20s and 30s? Because he said the people who believe what the Methodists tell them and what William Jennings Bryan tells them are fools. They're not being fooled, they are fools. They should...
Shame on them for believing these.
Yes, they make themselves undignified and ignorant. And no mincing of words here, and a great admixture of wit and evidence and reasoning. It absolutely works. It's the most successful anti-religious polemic there's probably ever been in the modern world. In the 20th century, anyway.
I think we just touched upon an issue that we should really...
By the way, I just want to notice, since we've reacted already to two other videos in this 1 hour, Christopher Hitchens has already lit up his second cigarette. This dude is definitely buzzing while he's hanging out with these guys.
Highlight this whole notion of authority, because religious people often argue that science is just a tissue of uncashed checks. You know, we're all relying on authority. How do you know that the cosmological constant is whatever it is? You know, so I think you two are well placed to do this. Differentiate the kind of faith placing in authority that we practice without fear in science and rationality generally, and the kind of faith placing in the preacher or the theologian that we criticize.
Well, what we actually do when we who are not physicists take on trust what physicists say is we have some evidence to suggest that physicists have looked into the matter, that they've done experiments, that they've peer-reviewed their papers, that they've criticized each other, that they've been subjected to massive criticism from their peers in seminars and in lectures and things. And they've come through.
And remember the structure that's there too. It's not just that there's peer review, but it's very important that it's competitive. For instance, when Fermat's last theorem was proved by
Andrew Wiles.
The reason that those of us who, forget it, I'm never going to understand that proof, but the reason that we can be confident that it really is a proof is that
nobody wanted him to get there first.
Every other mathematician who was competent in the world was very well motivated to study that, and believe me, if they begrudge him that this is a proof, it's a proof.
Yes. Yes.
And there's nothing like that.
No, because
when the antithesis of
no religious person has ever been able to say what Einstein said. If I'm right, the following solar event will occur off the west coast of Africa in, I forget how many years and months from now, and it did, within a very tiny degree of variation. There's never been a prophecy that's been vindicated like that, or anyone willing to place their reputation and their, as it were, their life on the idea that it would be.
I love he used the word prophecy there, like this prediction, because, you know, I heard it said, I don't know how true this is, that Christopher Columbus and such, when they came over, they predicted, you know, solar eclipse or something. Like, they had, like, obviously more advancements in terms of science and observations, and they were able to, like, trick some of the natives because they knew a little bit about observations and science and math and whatnot that helped them predict some of these things. And they thought they were gods. I mean, they thought the natives might have thought they were divine of some sort. But the fact that science can predict things based on empirical observation and data and such, to such a degree that, of course, religion can't. It's magical predicting. It's not based on empirical, actual observations. And that's why it's faith. And I know that the apologists don't like to go, faith is not without evidence. Dude, the list that goes on in the book of Hebrews right after it describes faith is all ancient heroes that, you know, barren women who get pregnant, you name it, like unforeseeable, impossible obstacles are overcome all by trusting God's going to do it, even though the evidence is contrary to it. If anything, faith is believing in spite of the evidence. That is literally what Hebrews lays out about faith. And so science being able to prophesy, but real prophecies of actual predictable events and things that they can see into the future based on measuring, testing, observing, that is why science is so good compared to the magical thinking and superstition of religion. I love that he used that term.
I was once asked at a public meeting, don't you think that the mysteriousness of quantum theory is just the same as the mysteriousness of the Trinity or the transubstantiation? And the answer, of course, is can we answer...
You see Christopher Hitchens' face? He's like...
In two quotes from Richard Feynman. One, Richard Feynman said, if you think you understand quantum theory, you don't understand quantum theory. He was admitting that it's highly mysterious. But the other thing is that the predictions of quantum theory experimentally are verified to the equivalent of predicting the width of North America to the width of one human hair. Right. And so quantum theory is massively supported by accurate predictions, even if you don't understand the mystery of the Copenhagen interpretation, whatever it is. Right. Whereas the mystery of the Trinity doesn't even try to make a prediction, let alone an accurate one.
this is so good. This is so good.
I don't like
It isn't a mystery either.
I don't like the use of the word mystery here.
Yes.
I think there's been a lot of consciousness raising in philosophy about this term where
I'm glad he's bringing this in because I know some people that get into the quantum stuff on a whole different level, and they like to do all sorts of funny things with it. Let's see what he says.
we have so-called Mysterians, the new Mysterians. These are people who like the term mystery. Noam Chomsky is famously quoted to say, there's two kinds of questions. There's puzzles and mysteries. Puzzles are soluble, mysteries aren't. And first of all, I just don't buy that, but I buy the distinction and say there's nothing about mystery in science. There's puzzles, there's deep puzzles, there's things we don't know, there's things we'll never know, but they aren't systematically incomprehensible to human beings. The glorification of the idea that these things are systematically incomprehensible is, I think, has no place in science.
Which is why I think we should be quite happy to revive traditional terms in our discourse, such as obscurantism and obfuscation, is what they really are. And to point out that these things can make intelligent people act stupidly. John Cornwell, who's just written another attack on yourself, Richard, and who's an old friend of mine, a very brilliant guy, wrote one of the best studies of the Catholic Church and fascism that has been published. He's in his review of you, he says, Professor Dawkins should just look at the shelves of books there are on the Trinity. The library is full of attempts to solve this problem before he's certain. But none of the books in those religious libraries solve it either.
Yep.
The whole point is that it remains insoluble and is used to keep people feeling baffled and inferior.
But I want to come back to the thing about mystery in physics, because isn't it possible that our evolved brains, because we evolved in what I call middle world, where we never have to cope with either the very small or the cosmologically very large, we may never actually have an intuitive feel for what's going on in quantum mechanics, but we can still test its predictions. We can still actually do the mathematics and do the physics to actually test the predictions, because anybody can read the dials on a...
Right. I think what we can see is that what scientists have constructed over the centuries is a series of tools, mind tools, thinking tools, mathematical tools, and so forth, which enable us to some degree to overcome the limitations of our evolved brains, our Stone Age, if you like, brains. And overcoming those limitations is not always direct. Sometimes you have to give up something. Yes, you'll just never be able to, as you say, to be able to think intuitively about this. But you can know that even though you can't think intuitively.
Imagine what they're talking about right now. How many people can't even begin to wrap their minds around how a non-intuitive thing within science could be understood by people who already barely want to even not believe in their ancient myths and superstitions. And so it's like they have to turn a different switch on to be interested in actually observing and exploring these kind of puzzles that it's going to go counterintuitive to everything you think you knew, everything you think you understand. And they're communicating in such a way that is like difficult to even express, that the mind is not capable of fathoming. Man, how do you get that into the everyday person's mind so they understand what's going on and actually not just believe what they're saying, but try to wrap their heads around to realize how counterintuitive it really is? I haven't dug into these things in depth. So, but I'm hearing what they're saying. I'm understanding, like, damn, this seems like an uphill battle.
About it, there's this laborious process by which you can make progress, and you do have to cede a certain authority to the process, but you can test that, and it can carry you from A to B In the same way, if you're if you're a quadriplegic, an artificial device can carry you from A to B. Doesn't mean you can walk from A to
That's
B,
right.
but you can get from A to B.
Yes. I mean, the bolder physicists will say, "Well, who cares about intuition? I mean, just look at the math."
Yeah.
That's right. They are comfortable with living with their prostheses.
Well,
Wow, that's just thinking about that is pretty wild. There's limitations your mind can't even fathom, but there are tools that allow us to go beyond what the mind can even understand and carry you to the unknown, so to speak, but recognizing that unknown that we don't intuit is there and measurable and observable through tools that help us have foresight. Like right now I could see, but if I have binoculars, I could see even further. These tools allow you to kind of see beyond what you can even see as a human, beyond that analogy. That analogy will break down, but that's really interesting.
perfect example of that is just dimensions beyond 3, because we can't visualize
Yes.
a 4th dimension or a 5th, but it's trivial to represent it mathematically, and so we can move into other dimensions.
And now we teach our undergraduates how to manipulate n-dimensional spaces and to think about vectors in n-dimensional spaces, and they get used to the fact they can't quite imagine. What you do is you imagine 3 of them and say, you wave your hand a little bit and say, more of the same.
Yeah.
But you check your intuition by running the maths, and it works.
But it's easy to do something. Say you're a psychologist looking at personality, and you say there are 15 dimensions of personality, and you could think of them as being 15 dimensions in space.
Yep.
And anybody can see that you can imagine moving along any one of those dimensions with respect to the others, and you don't actually have to visualize 15-dimensional space.
No. And you give up that demand, and you realize, I can live without that. It would be nice if I could do that, but hey, I can't see bacteria with the naked eye either. I can live without that. But
I think there's one.
I was challenged on the radio the other day by someone.
Can't see bacteria.
He had to be fairly quiet. No, said that I believed in atoms on no evidence because I'd never seen one. Not since George Galloway said to me that he'd never seen a barrel of oil.
Right. That's cute. But you realize that people at this point, they're wearing themselves right down to their uppers. I mean, they're desperate when they get to this state. Yeah. The reason I say it is because I think I don't want us to make our lives easier, but it makes the argument a little more simple. We are quite willing to say there are many things we don't know. But Haldane, I think it was, said, the universe is not just queerer than we understand, it's queerer than we can understand. We know there'll be great new discoveries. We know we'll live to see great things, but we know there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. That's the whole distinction. The believer has to say not just that there is a God, the deist position, that there may be a mind at work in the universe, a proposition we can't disprove, but they know that mind. Exactly.
And can interpret it. They're on good terms with it. They get occasional revelations.
They have a book that is verbatim
briefings from it. Now, any decent argument, any decent intellectual has to begin by excluding people who claim to know more than they can possibly know. You start off by saying, well, that's wrong to begin with. Now can we get on with it? Yeah. So theism's gone in the first round. It's off the island.
Exactly.
It's out of the show.
That's a footnote I wanted to add to what Dan was saying. Even if mystery was somehow something we had to a bitter pill we have to swallow in the end, we are cognitively closed to the truth at some level. That still doesn't give any scope to theism.
Absolutely not, because it's just as close to them as it is to those who aren't.
They claim perfect transparency of revelation.
And also they can't be allowed to forget what they used to say when they were strong enough to get away with it.
Exactly.
This is really true.
Right.
In every detail. And if you don't believe it,
we'll kill you for it. Yes.
Wow, we're ending it there. We're going to end it there because there's so much stuff. We're going to continue this in another video. I have to take this piece by piece. This is just way too good. This is a treasure, ladies and gentlemen. I love listening to these 4: Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins, 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, baby. 4 horsemen of the atheist movement, new atheists as they call it, but it's such a wonderful thing to listen to now that I have those blinders off. A lot of people don't realize, you're scared. You're scared of the unknown. You're afraid of letting go. You're afraid, what if I go to hell? You're afraid, what if God is real? Like all of these things that are like indoctrinated type doctrines that they tell you your whole life. And then once you get to the other side, you realize it's beautiful. It's actually much better than I thought. There's a lot more freedom here. And they go, yeah, freedom to sin. No. Freedom in terms of not feeling like a slave, not feeling like I'm under someone who's watching my every move when there's much more important things to be worried about than my thoughts that they're doing nothing about in the real world. So there's just so much stuff that doesn't make any sense. I hope you've enjoyed this. What did you like about this? I enjoyed the part where they talked about the limitations of, even no matter what we do, we're not going to be able to access it, but there's tools that allow us to reach beyond that, and we can measure it, test it, and the next person come along, they can measure and test it. The believer, the theist, believes they have access to that thing. They believe they're connected to it. They understand it. They can interpret it and know it in some fashion. How? Magical thinking, somehow a prayer inside. You can feel it. You can feel it with experience. That's how they would say you can access that through magical words, asking Jesus certain names into their heart, or Jesus being the name above all names. These kinds of things that are like, okay, clearly you've stopped realizing this doesn't work. You don't have that clue. Usually they don't recognize it. The other thing is just listening to them laughing here at the end, talking about these funny little examples of like, you used to say you know it. Now you guys are backing up. Well, it's a bit mysterious. It's out there. It's just beyond what we understand. Oh yeah, okay. I bet now that we can check and see a lot more, that's where God goes. The unfalsifiable locations where we haven't checked yet or have no way of knowing yet. So I really appreciate you. Please consider subscribing and joining our community. Thank you so much to everybody who recommends me videos. I'm paying attention and trying to take notes of the videos that you recommend I react to. I really like these videos. These are fun. So thank you. Like the video, share it to your community, share it to your social media. Get this out there. Let's make this thing grow, make some noise. Thank you so much. And until next time, see you then.